Years since the Tulsa Race Massacre occurred, thousands of black homes and businesses were burned to the ground in a matter of just 16 hours. One local historian documents it all in a new book. Our Lauren Edwards talked to him tonight.
So I got a chance to interview historian Scott Ellsworth last week before he got on a plane to Tulsa, which is where he is today. And he's a professor at the University of Michigan Ann Arbor. But he wrote a book where he goes into deep detail about what he is describing as the single worst incident of racial violence in history, and it happened in his hometown.
Well, I was born and raised in Tulsa, and even as a kid, it was very hard to find out anything about what we then called the Tulsa Race Riot.
This Memorial Day weekend, a parade honoring the lives lost in the Tulsa Race Massacre 100 years ago. But Scott Ellsworth says, growing up, no one really talked about what happened on May 31st, 1921.
I had heard, what I would have called urban legends of bodies floating down the Arkansas River and machine guns and airplanes, but you just couldn't find out anything about it.
So Ellsworth, who's a professor of African and African American studies at the University of Michigan Ann Arbor, took it upon himself to learn everything about the Tulsa Race Massacre.
I think the most important thing to know is that this was the worst single incident of racial violence in all of American history.
He says it began when a black teenager was accused of attempting to sexually assault a white teenage elevator operator. Tulsa's afternoon newspaper printed the headline, "To Lynch Negro Tonight," and a white lynch mob of 1,000 people showed up to the courthouse.
Eventually, 75 African-American World War I vets, all of whom were armed, went down to the courthouse, presented themselves to the sheriff, and offered their help in protecting the prisoner. They were turned away.
As they left, he says a white man tried to take their guns. A shot went off, and the massacre began.
In the course of about 16 hours, more than 1,000 African-American businesses and homes were looted and burned to the ground by a white mob.
The mob torched black law firms, doctors' offices, hospitals, schools, and libraries that all stood in the Greenwood area, which was also known as Black Wall Street.
There were two theaters. One sat 1,000 people. The other sat 750. There were 2 African-American newspapers. There were a dozen churches, 30 restaurants.
Within hours, it was all gone. 10,000 people were made homeless, he says, and anywhere from 70 to 300 people died.
The massacre, 35 square blocks were absolutely reduced to ashes and cinders. And, the photographs of Greenwood after the massacre looked like Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
Ellsworth wrote about it in his book, The Groundbreaking, which was just released on May 18th and was quickly picked up by Oprah. But it details one of the most historic steps towards justice, searching for and finding a mass grave.
Readers get to know these incredible small group of survivors who really kept this story alive. And I became very close to a number of them. They had a huge impact on my life.
One of the survivors, 107-year-old VIOLA FLETCHER, testified before Congress recently seeking justice for what happened.
We'll never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street.
Ellsworth says as soon as he and the others found the mass grave, he thought about the victims and the survivors. He hopes his book will shine a light on their lives and the community's perseverance, but also spur others to have honest conversations about what happened.
I think that readers are going to find some hope in the book in that it gives people a pathway how you and your community can start thinking about, well, let's really be honest about our background.
Now, Ellsworth says that in June is when they're going to start to exhume the bodies and just learn about their lives and exactly how they died and also just what happened specifically on that night. And then after that, they will get a proper burial and memorial. And he's also hoping that those 75 vets that showed up to the courthouse, that they too get a proper memorial as well. Reporting in Grand Rapids, Lauren Edwards, Fox 17 News.